Okay, shall we begin? Assalamu alaikum. Alhamdulillah. Salatu wassalam. Rasulillah. Amma ba'd. Sorry, we're running a bit late, but we're going to begin now. Ask Allah to make this the beginning of something which is going to be very beneficial. We've chosen a book which is obviously, as you know, very lengthy. There's over nearly 2,000 hadith here that we are going to discuss bi'idhnillah, and it's going to be inshallah very uplifting for your iman bi'idhnillah, because this book, as you know, is called Riyadh as-Saaleheen, and bi'idhnillah we're going to be studying the gardens of the righteous. And the book is exactly that. But before we get into the book, I want to ask you some questions before we get into it, because obviously we're studying the hadith and the statements of the Prophet ﷺ, and these are very noble statements. It's not something that we can take lightheartedly. It's not something that we can think of, well, I've heard this before millions of times, I've heard it in the khutbah and all of this, and just disregard it. It's from the wahi of Allah Jalla wa Ala. So these are just some questions that I wanted to put forward to you to think about before we actually begin, so that you can give this knowledge and this discipline some kind of respect. To put it into perspective. Question number one, I want you to think to yourself. Question number one, would you, as a human being, always like to be right? Would you? Is there anybody here who would say that I don't mind making mistakes? Is there anybody here that would always like to be right? I think that's a humanistic trait, isn't it? Do you wish, okay, so now the next question I want to ask you, do you wish that every time you spoke, it came out perfectly?
Yes.
That you never said something, and you wish, oh, well, I wish I didn't say that, or I wish I didn't say it in that way, maybe he understood it wrong, or maybe my voice was bad. Anybody think or wish that every time they spoke it was perfect? I don't think, again, the answer would be no. So now the next question, maybe you see where I'm going with this. Next question, question number 3, again, something for you to think about because of the virtue of this subject. How would you feel if Allah chose you to make this communication always right and always perfect, not just for your neighborhood, not just for your family, for humanity? Every single person after you, from this moment onwards until Yawm al-Qiyamah, every single person is going to look at your statements and the way you said it. Okay. So now I think we're getting somewhere. I think now maybe you think, okay, well now we can see the magnitude of the statements of the Prophet ﷺ. But now another question number 4 now. Let's take it another step further. What would you do if Allah made you responsible over people? And what response, so the question number 4 is, how would you treat this responsibility of you knowing other people better than they know themselves? How would you treat that responsibility? Is it possible ever that your statements are so comprehensive that one word could be a matter of aqeedah, it could be a matter of fiqh, it could be a matter of akhlaq, it could be in so many different disciplines in just that one statement? Is there anybody that can do that? What would you do if you were in charge of conveying the speech of your Lord? How would you take that on? And sometimes we know, and sometimes these hadith we will see, sometimes Allah Jalla wa Ala told him, this is the message, now say it in your words. Don't say it in my words, say it in your words. Allahumma salli ala nabiyina. He was always right, he was always perfect. he was extremely responsible, and he conveyed the message in the best of manners. And he was dutiful towards his Lord. But now, another question that I want you to think about before we get into the book, because this is the whole reason why we should be here, is how would you react? We're only just getting what he said to us. Imagine you had all of that. How would you become? Allah Jalla wa Ala has said to you that you are going to be the most elevated person that He's ever created. What would that make to you? What would that do to you? Would it make you? Salam. Would it break you? Would it humble you? Or would it make you proud? Alayhi salam, he used to stand all night, and Aisha radiallahu anha said that you've got all of this. You're always right, you're absolutely perfect. Allah loves you, you're responsible, you don't do a single thing wrong. Why are you standing all night and praying? What's the point? Just relax. What did he say? أَفَلَا أَكُونَ عَبْدًا شَكُورًا. Shall I not be somebody who is humbled? So the point here, my brothers and sisters, is that we're here for a noble reason. And we have to put it into context before we go any further. That these statements that we're going to study and look at and read over is not something that is lightweight. This is one of the translations of the book. It's got the Arabic in it as well, so it's quite bigger than it may be in other publications. But as you can see, this is just a glimpse of the life of the Prophet ﷺ. Just a few of these statements, and everything in here is perfect. Everything in here is a guidance for you. Everything made this man become the most humble, yet the most responsible man that ever lived. Question. How much of communication, because we're in a university, I thought I'd put this in here, because maybe you do these kind of things in your subjects. How much communication do you think, now communication, when you speak, or when you communicate, when you interact with other people, or humans, or animals, or whatever, your communication is one of three types. Either it's verbal or non-verbal. It's two types, verbal and non-verbal. But in the verbal, there's also another component, which is your tone. Anyone seen any of this question before? Have you seen this question before? Yeah, you have, because you're in education. But I don't think a lot of people have thought about this, maybe. How much do you think when you speak in your daily life, from the morning until you go to sleep at night time, how much of your communication do you think is verbal, non-verbal, and how much is based on your tone? I mean, let me rephrase that question. How much of an impact does your communication have? So I'm speaking to this brother now. I have an hour conversation with him. In that hour, how much of an impact has he had from verbal, non-verbal, and tone? I could be talking to him about anything. I could talk to him about cabbages. But how much of it has influenced him based on, well, what kind of ratio do you think there is? Any idea? Yes, Yusuf.
I think tone might.
Tone? Go on.
I think tone has a big impact.
Okay, so what percentage would you give that out of 100?
60.
60% here, okay. Can I write on this, yeah? I've got a pen. 60%, Yusuf said 60%. What do you think with non-communication then? You're saying 60 here. How much do you put here?
So say, what can we say about
You can't say. You've got 40% left. What do you think?
I'll say 20.
20-20. Is there anybody that would increase that or lower that?
So I would suggest 20 verbal, 60 non-verbal.
60 non-verbal, wow, okay, and then?
And the remaining.
And then what, 20 here. Okay, so he's done it a bit different. One more person? No, you know the answer. Ahmed?
Probably non-verbal will be about 75.
75, wow. And then?
Verbal will be probably, I would say, 20%.
20, and then you're leaving 5 for tone. Wow. Yes. Hey, go on.
No.
No problem.
I think 10% for verbal, 10% for non-verbal, 80%.
Why do you think this question is important? Yeah.
Non-verbal, yeah, it's around 73, 75.
Yeah.
Tone is around 20.
Okay, then 5 is there. But
Yeah,
my question now.
5 or 3 for
Okay, but now my question now. Why do you think this is related to Riyadh as-Saaleheen? Yes.
The Prophet is all verbal, isn't it?
All of that is gone
Yeah,
completely.
yeah, we didn't see.
You can't see him. You can't see his smile. You can't see his gesture. You can't see the way he talked to people. You can't see anything anymore. All you have got now, you can't even see that now either.
Even
You got the tone?
Yeah.
No tone.
That's why.
All you have got left is verbal. So now if you've got verbal, most of the people are saying here, all we've got with Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam right now is 20% of his communication.
Wow.
20%. Let that sink in. You only got 20% of his communication, yet it's still reforming people. Yet it's still changing people's lives. Yet we have books called The Gardens of the Righteous. Let me give you the answer. 65% is non-verbal and 35% is verbal, and out of that 35%, 7% is for tone, roughly. But now I chose this diagram here because it's explaining what we're missing out on. At least. There's more. But we're missing out on his facial expressions, alayhi salam. Anas radiallahu anhu said, I looked at the moon, looked at his face, looked at the moon, looked at his face. And there's nothing more beautiful than I saw in his face. His facial expressions is gone. You haven't got that. Anybody seen the Prophet? It's possible, but anybody has? His tone of voice. There's a narration that the Prophet ﷺ was shyer than a virgin girl in the private quarters of her own home. 13, 14-year-old innocent girl. No pop culture, no nothing. Innocent, fitra. She is shy. But not only is she shy in her nature, in her private own home, that's how shy he was, alayhi salam. His movement, the way he used to speak, the way he used to talk, the way he used to touch people, all of that's gone. His appearance, alayhi salam, his beauty, his eye contact, his gestures, his postures, everything is gone for us. These are just a few of the statements that we have of him, alayhi salam, after 23 years of him speaking, of him moving, of him being who he was. So how would it have been if we actually sat with him and actually saw him? This is a book by Imam Nawawi. Does anybody know who Imam Nawawi is? I'm sure we've all heard of him. He's a household name. And some of the ulama have said that the fact that we're still studying his book, the fact that there's still barakah in his book, shows you that he was somebody that was very, very sincere. And Allah accepted it from him. And Allah gave it to him. His name is Abu Zakaria Yahya ibn Sharaf al-Nawawi. He came from a town called Noah, which is near Sham today. May Allah make easy their affairs and remove injustice away from them. He wasn't far from Damascus, where now you are seeing the worst and the most horrific of offences. He came about 800 years ago, rahimahullah, 631, and he passed away 676. How old was he? 44 when he passed away. He passed away before he reached 45 years old. He was only 44. He was probably younger than some of the people in this room maybe. But his piety is what lives on. His efforts in the deen is what lives on. 700, 800 years, he's still benefiting the ummah. It's as if he's still alive. Some of the ulama say that when you pass away, this is your second life begins, the sadaqah jariyah that he has left behind. And we're still benefiting from his statements, and he's in his grave right now benefiting. We may just dua for him right now, and he's just been elevated. Prophet ﷺ said that a man is in his grave, and he's given a status and a pleasure in his grave, and he will say, Ya Rabbi, where did this come from? Because there's somebody behind that's made istighfar for you. He never used to eat fruit. Now let me just put that into context, yeah? How many times do people have a takeaway a week? How many times do you just think, you know what, me and my family, let's just get something nice to eat, have a nice meal, yeah? You don't have to cook, you relax. There's no washing up. Let's have a nice meal. Go to our favourite restaurant, favourite takeaway. How many times do you do that a week? Once a week? Jazakallah khair, thanks. Once a week, twice a week, some people every day. This man, he never used to eat fruit. What that means is he never had any indulgences in his life. And the reason why is because of his piety. He was entirely unsure about the validity of eating the fruit in that area. Some of the ulama have explained that Imam al-Nawawi was not happy with people setting up a waqf, an endowment, and then the fruit that came out from it, they used to take it and they used to eat it. He said, no, this is not halal. If you set up a sadaqah, I can't just go there and start eating your fruit. So he stopped it. And this is what was circulating in Sham. So he said, I'm not eating no fruit. So put that in context, your favourite restaurant, your favourite indulgence, your favourite dessert, chocolate, wherever it is, he left that for the sake of his piety. There's a lot more that you can say about Imam Nawawi's life, and there's a reason why I've just put it down to 3 points. The second point I wanted to choose is because of this. He used to exhaust himself in seeking knowledge, and in worship generally, but in knowledge and all these different acts of worship. And it's been narrated that sometimes that people used to come up to him and say, you are about to get very, very ill if you don't calm down. You are gonna pass out, something's gonna happen to you, and he used to ignore it. And he used to say that, don't people fast and have tawakkul? Fast for 14 hours, 12 hours, you're not gonna have any food, you don't even know if you're gonna have food after the 12 hours, but you still do it, don't you? That used to be his response. And his favourite meal was bread and water. Why do you think it was bread and water? He used to put the bread in the water and he used to drink it in khalas. Waste of time. You give me chicken, it's a waste of time. You give me a nice big steak, it's a waste of time. It's too much cutting and chewing. I've got stuff to do. We're laughing, but look what he's left behind. What have you left behind? This is the reason why I chose this as an introduction. These people, their objective was the akhirah. And Allah gave him tawfiq to write a book, Riyadh as-Saaleheen. Something that probably none of us ever would do. Why is this book important to the ummah? Like we said, some of the ulama have said that you can see that there's barakah in this book because Allah has chosen for this book to be studied 700-800 years after he's passed away, from the east to the west. Far east they're studying this book. Far west now we're studying this book. Allah's put barakah in it. Rahimahullah. But look what Imam adh-Dhahabi said. Imam adh-Dhahabi in his Siyar al-Nubala, he said, what is ilmun nafi? What is beneficial knowledge? And he said the reason why this question is very important because the Prophet ﷺ said, Man raghiba an sunnati falaysa minni. If you deny my hadith or turn away from my hadith, then you are not from me. So now we are studying this sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ because we want to be like him. We want to know who he was. We want to act like him. We want to be with him in the akhirah. So he said, if you want to have a firm grasp on the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, study 4 books. If you understand these 4 books well, then you are in a very good position. What are these 4 books? Sahih Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, Sunnah Nasa'i. Why is Sunnah Nasa'i there? Anybody know? Anybody study Sunnah Nasa'i?
Not mentioned in Bukhari.
Excellent. There are versions of narrations that Imam al-Nasa'i puts in that are not found in Tirmidhi and Abu Dawud and Ibn Majah. So Imam al-Nasa'i actually has a very much more extensive bank of a hadith from the Sunan. And then, number 4, this book here. You understand it well, you implement it well, learn them, have firm understanding of them. Then what did he say? You, look at that. You will not fail. You will not fail. This is what Imam al-Dhahabi and many other ulama have said many different statements about this book, which time doesn't permit. Introduction of the author. Now, if we look at the book, the author himself has his own introduction where he talks about what he wrote and why he wrote it. This is Riyadh as-Saaleheen. I've got this version here. The soft copy is a lot easier for us all to follow. This is the one that has been done by Dar es Salaam, and there is no perfection except for Allah. And we will see that, you know, there are going to be English mistakes, maybe even translation mistakes, but perfection, again, like I say, is only for Allah. These are the chapters, and these are some of the things that you're going to study when we're looking at this book. We'll look at this book together, bi'idhnillah. So the first chapter here we have is of sincerity, and bi'idhnillah, time permitting, we're going to look at sincerity. The next week, repentance and patience, and so on. And if we look at this book, we will see that this book is mainly about adab and akhlaq and things that will get you closer to Allah, and how to deal with some of the things that happen in everyday life that many people are negligent of. It goes on to 100 and something chapters, but more than 200 something chapters, 300 something chapters, but it's not that extensive because some of the chapters are not that long. So you look at this chapter here, it's only 4 pages. This is the author's introduction, and he praises Allah and he sends peace and blessing upon the Prophet ﷺ, and he praises Allah extensively and makes dhikr of him. And the ulama have said that he actually wrote this introduction after he finished the book. He wrote this introduction after he finished the book. Why do you think that's important? So you do a piece of work, you've compiled it all together, then you write the introduction. Does that make sense? Or would you write the introduction first and say, this is the one I'm about to do, and then do your work?
We should summarize the whole book. So
Excellent.
You can only do that after you've done the whole book.
It gives you hindsight. It gives you a summary in your head. So he knows why he's writing the book, but as he is writing the book and he's going through that journey, he's learning different things. He's debating different things. He's looking at pros and cons of different things. So if he writes the introduction at the end, it gives him a new perspective that he didn't have from the very beginning. And if you read it, he talks about the whole purpose of life. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. I'm not created man or jinn except to worship me. And this is why I can't say he called it Riyadh as-Saaleheen, but this is why it's so important that we are walking together now in the gardens of the righteous. Because what he is saying is that the dunya is going to fade. It's not your objective, it's not the reason why you are here. And the more we realize that, the more we will work for the akhirah. And then he goes on to talk about it being the true rizq. That your rizq is not in the supermarket, your rizq is in the garden, which gives you fruit of piety. This book is a book of self-rectification. This book is a book of helping you to purify yourself and to learn etiquette, learn adab, learn how you can conduct yourself and become a better person. And he says towards the end that he's chosen only a hadith which are authentic. And this is just a rough summary as to what he's put in his introduction. Now, as an introduction to our course, I wanted to have an introduction also. Just to briefly explain that this book is not going to be lectures on Aqidah. It's not going to be lectures on fiqh. It's not going to be technical lectures at all. Our objective behind studying this book is to see how we can benefit when we are walking through those gardens and benefit from all of the different pastures. So if you're going to walk now into a park, for example, into a garden, and you see an activity over here, do you think it's wise now, and you know that this theme park, for example, is huge and it's going to take you all day to cover it, would it be sensible for you just to stand in this corner and enjoy this part of the theme park when there's everything else that you need to enjoy? You would obviously plan your day and plan the time that you have so that you can benefit from all of the different parts in that theme park. And that's exactly what we want to do here. These are hadith. We're not going to look at it each one and scrutinize each one and look at each one and give a detailed explanation. Maybe you'll be able to contribute and say, well, this is what I've understood from it, or this is what I've heard from it. That's all fine. But what we want to do is look at Riyadh as-Saaleheen chapter by chapter and try and understand what he is saying when he's collecting these hadith. If you want, you can read these hadith in detail at home. But what we're going to go through is look at it as a summary for each hadith, each chapter. That will help us save time and continue moving on to the next chapter and to the next book. But also, it won't be extensive so it doesn't become boring, you know. So, this is the beginning of the book, this is the chapter, and this is the chapter of sincerity. Before we go into sincerity, why is Ikhlas so important? What do you think? Why is Ikhlas so important? Yes, Jibit. Excellent. It puts you in a position whether you know whether or not you are accepted with Allah, and whether your actions are futile or not. A question that I want to ask to you now. I've got a task here. I don't know if we've got time for it. Has everyone got Mus'haf on their phone? Okay, if you can get out the Mus'haf on your phone and go to Surah as-Safat. Surah as-Safat. The Surah as-Safat is number 37. Okay? Everybody there? 37. Was-Safat is-Safa. What is a Safat? What does that mean? Why has Allah called it a Safat?
Angels?
It's talking about the angels. And some of the ulama who have explained this book, or the tafsir, have said that Allah has called this surah the Surah al-Safat because this surah is talking about those people who are at service to Allah. And those people who are at service to Allah, the highest degree, arguably, are the angels. And these are the angels who come and they stand in rows and they are obedient and they recite the dhikr and they know that Allah is one. But then Allah Jalla wa Ala quickly moves on to talking about those people who don't have ikhlas. So if you read through these ayat, if you've got the English there, if you've got the Arabic there, فَاسْتَفْتِهِمْ أَهُمْ أَشَدُّ خَلْقًا أَمَّنْ خَلَقْنَا. Ask them, have they got somebody that can, have they got a deity that can actually create the way Allah has created them? بَلْ أَجِبْتَ وَيَسْخَرُونَ. You'll be amazed. They are laughing. They are mocking. When you remind them, they don't want to be reminded. When you see them, they will laugh at you and mock you and insult you and look at you sarcastically. And then the ayat go on and it talks about what's going to happen in the akhirah. And it was very simple because إِنَّهُمْ كَانُوا إِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ, when it was told to them, say la ilaha illallah, just have ikhlas. What did they do? Ayah number 35. يَسْتَكْبِرُونَ. They didn't want to have ikhlas. That's all they wanted. And then Allah Jalla wa Ala, after swearing by the angels and say that these are the peak of those people who are a service to me, Jalla wa Ala. This is what we have told humanity to do, to follow. They've turned away. Then Allah Jalla wa Ala brings the stories of prophets after prophets after prophets as an example for me and you to follow in service. And when Allah Jalla wa Ala talks about the Anbiya and the Rusul in this surah, He repeats over again, إِلَّا عِبَادُ اللَّهِ الْمُخْلَصِينَ. Those people who are successful are those people with ikhlas. And then Allah Jalla wa Ala ends with very famous ayat, Subhana Rabbika Rabbil Izzati Amma Yasifun, and Salam upon the Mursaleen, those people who have ikhlas. And whether you have ikhlas or not, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. It doesn't increase Allah, it doesn't decrease Allah in the slightest. It is for you. This is why ikhlas is very important. We could be here talking about it all day, and we've got some hadith which we are going to talk about. But this is what I wanted to point out now here. Safat, we've just looked at a very basic tafsir of Surah Safat. Allah has talked about the Anbiya after Anbiya, Nabi after Nabi, Rasul after Rasul. Do we have a Rasul now to teach us what ikhlas is? They're all gone. They're all finished. Who's it up to now? It's up to me and you, my brothers. Until Yawm al-Qiyamah, you are carrying that baton on that they've left from Adam until Muhammad alayhi salam of those people of ikhlas. If that's not enough as an honor for you, then there can't be any other honor. And if that isn't enough to let you know that you will be supported, as long as you rectify and perfect your ikhlas and seek to perfect your ikhlas, because Allah has promised that He is going to support, and He has told us in the surah over again that He has supported them. They were victorious, and Allah has praised them over and over again. I want you to think again here now. Think of a person or a group of people that you love the most in your life. Get them in your head. Yeah? That person's in your head. Maybe it's your children, maybe it's your parents, maybe it's just your mother, maybe it's just your father, maybe it's just your son, not your daughter. Whoever it is. Who is the person that you love the most? In your head right now. Everybody with me so far? Yeah? Is there anybody that doesn't love anyone?
I have plenty.
Alhamdulillah, that's fine. You got a whole tribe, no problem. Right. Now think about this next question. How now? Imagine if I was to say to you, that daughter of yours, 5 years old, 3 years old, that apple of your eye. You don't want to get up in the morning, but when you hear her laughing, you just think, Allah, I'll just get up now. I want to spend the rest of my day with her. I want to spend the rest of my life with her. How would you feel if you never saw that person ever again for 1 hour? And you don't know what's going to happen. She got kidnapped. Allah preserve us and the Muslims. How would you feel? 1 hour. 1 day. Imagine you see your mum for 1 day and you don't know where she is. No phone, no nothing. Would you be worried? Would you be worried? How would you then feel if somebody has told you that you will never see them again for eternity? Devastated. Devastated. You'll never see that person again for eternity. And not only that, maybe that love that you have for them will be taken away and you won't even think about asking about them. That bond is completely gone. This is why Ikhlas is so important, my brothers, my sisters. Surah Hijr, Allah tells us of a conversation that we had, that He had, Jalla wa ala, with a person who has no Ikhlas. And He wants none of us to have Ikhlas. If you don't have Ikhlas, He will win and He will take you into the hellfire with Him. Iblis said, Rabbi, bima aghwaytani, because you have led me astray. Look at the arrogance. You led me astray. I will make for them the paths in the earth of misguidance easy, beautiful. And what I will do with that, I will take them all away with me, all of them. How many people on the planet right now? 6 billion. I promise you, Allah, because you misguided me, I'm taking all these 6 billion people with me to the hellfire. Just you wait and see. Iblis said that to who? Allah Jalla wa ala, the one who created him. Is He talking about 6 billion people? He's not talking about 6 billion people. Allah knows best how many people He's talking. He's talking about from Adam until the last man. I'm going to take all of them. But then, He knows that He's losing a fighting battle with a small group of people. Who are they? Illa ibadaka minhum mukhlasin. I can't do anything with these guys. These guys are ikhlas. They want you, they want your akhirah. They're not going to be deterred. They're walking in these Riyadh, as-Saaleheen. They're benefiting from each other. They're walking through the pastures. They're walking through the gardens. And they left the dunya. They're eating bread with water. I can't do anything. Allah Jalla wa ala then said, those people who have ikhlas, where are they? They are upon a path which is not crooked. It's a path that is not bent. It's a path that can't be broken. It's a path that will lead them directly to me. That's why Allah says, هذا صراط علي, straight to me, مستقيم. إن عبادي ليس لك عليهم سلطان. You cannot do anything to these people, except those people who maybe had it and it was taken away from them, who maybe do good deeds but they don't have it. But when are you going to see these people? This is now, I want you to think about this question here right now. On the Day of Judgment, this is the appointed time. Is your ikhlas pure or not pure? This is when you're going to find out. This is when you are thinking, where's my daughter? Where's that person that I love? Let me find that person. This is the maw'id. This is the appointed time. Because everybody is going to be gathered there. And if they are successful with you, and if you are successful, then you are going to be happy for eternity. If neither of you have ikhlas, then none of you are going to be asking even about the other person, not even for 1 second. My daughter, have you had breakfast? My daughter, have you had lunch? My daughter, you slipped. Let me help you. Not even one thing you're going to ask about your daughter. وَإِنَّ جَهَنَّمَ لَمَوْعِدُهُمْ أَجْمَعِينَ. Those people have ikhlas, it's gone. But then Allah Jalla wa Ala, always, when He talks about the people who are misguided, He always reinforces it with motivation. This is the ikhlas. You want that? Come here. Avoid this. Come here. In al-muttaqina. One person, taqi? No. All of those people are ikhlas. You and your daughter that you love. You and your mother that you love. Tell her about ikhlas. Sort your ikhlas out. Then you will be happy for eternity. It's a promise from your Lord. Udkhuluha bisalam. Enter into it with peace and security. And in your hearts you will have no worries, you will have no enmity, you will have no disagreements. This is ikhlas. This is what ikhlas leads to. The purest of hearts. Imam al-Nawawi himself, in Sharh Sahih Muslim, had this statement. And I thought I'd pick it out because it's a very important statement. And it's as if maybe he's talking about this. He's not. He's talking about the hadith of Jibreel when the Prophet ﷺ was asked, Umal ihsan, what is ihsan? And in explaining it, he said, the scholars who understand the reality of life see the importance of sitting with the Saaleheen. Sitting with the Saaleheen, so that they can compare the deficiencies with them. When you're studying these hadith, when you're sitting with people and doing good deeds, you can compare. Am I being the best I can? Is there room for improvement? What you also learn how to respect. This book is a book of adab. This book is a book of self-rectification. And what you also learn is reverence. How to show respect or how to show honor towards something. If you learn this, my brothers, my sisters, your life is not futile. Your life is going to be a life of honor. You're giving yourself self-respect. You're giving yourself a purpose. And bi'idhnillah, you're going to see that in your Yawm al-Qiyamah. These are the people who are mindful of Allah in their public and in their private. You can't be mindful of the public and the private unless you are following certain characteristics, and it all starts from ikhlas. What is ikhlas? Or should I say, what are the pillars of ikhlas? I think some of the people should know this. There are 2 pillars of ikhlas. What is ikhlas? Sincerity is a translation.
Dedicating the work to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Okay, so now seeking Allah, the Most High. This is ikhlas. This is one part of ikhlas. That you want to make Allah happy. Call it dedication, call it love, call it whatever you want, but you just want to make Allah happy. What's the second thing that you need to be a mukhlis?
Intention?
This is part of seeking Allah. Seeking the Jannah. The ulama have said that ikhlas has 2 pillars. You can't be a mukhlis if you say, no, I don't want Allah's Jannah. I don't want Allah's Jannah. I just want to make Allah happy. That's not mukhlis. And a person is not got ikhlas if he just said, no, I just want Allah's Jannah. I don't care if Allah's happy with me or not. Just save me. Is he truly respecting his Lord? Is he truly sincere? No. What you're doing is you want to make your Lord happy, and you want to make your Lord or attain what will make him happy, because he's told you about Jannah over again, and this is what he wants for you. Have you got ikhlas? You don't think so? Why?
I think sometimes you do things hoping other people will praise you.
Excellent. Okay, that's my next question. What do you need? How do you know that you've got ikhlas? What do you need to be a mukhlis? You guys remember?
Nia. First one.
Niyyah. Okay, so we can say that. Intention. And then I'll put C above because the intention refers to these things. I want to have the niyyah to make Allah happy, and I want the niyyah to go to His Jannah. طيب. What's another thing that you need? What's another thing that you need if you want to be a mukhlis? What do you think? Okay, you are not deterred by praise or criticism. Spelled it wrong. If somebody says, look at this man, he's an evil man and he's just the worst person in the world, he did this to me, he did that to me, it doesn't matter. Am I doing it for the sake of Allah or not? I don't care what people think. This man, he's amazing. You see him, your iman will go up. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. It's not going to change my actions, not even a little bit. Another way that you know you have ikhlas is that you always see yourself as being fallen short. But it doesn't stop there. Ibn Qayyim says that you always see other people better than you. You always see other people better than you. You see that brother over there? I saw him listening to music, smoking cigarettes. Maybe he doesn't know, brother. Maybe his mufti's told him that it's halal. Both things are halal. He's better than me. This doesn't mean that we don't advise. This doesn't mean... But the point is, internally, you're clean. Internally, you are clean. What else do you need to have ikhlas? Another point of having ikhlas is that you seek to conceal your deeds. Akhi, I studied in the university 15 years and I went and performed 20 hajj and I've done this and I've done that and I've given all of this sadaqah. You see that masjid over there? I built it. That's not ikhlas. That's a sign that it's not ikhlas. Don't get me wrong. Talking about your deeds, sometimes we know all of these are talking about the deeds of the Prophet ﷺ. All of them. If there is a need for you to talk about your deeds, then khair. But if the asl is, you go back to the default, which is that you seek to conceal it. And then the last one, you don't seek to be praised, or you don't seek fame. This is just a rough compilation of what some of the ulama have said of needing if you want to have ikhlas. You are sincere seeking Allah and His Jannah. Every single moment. We're not talking about your lifestyle in general. Everybody has weaknesses. Like, there's going to come a point in time is that, listen, I know I'm sitting at home and I shouldn't be listening to that music. There has to come a point in time, if you're a mukhlis, that you have to contemplate and think, is this the right thing? When am I going to stop? What's going to happen to me? If I carry on, will Allah be pleased with me? If I die now listening to it, will I go to His Jannah? This is the point. It's not about your lifestyle. Everybody's here because they have a degree of ikhlas. You wouldn't come here. You'd rather be at home, I'm sure. The point here is that you have to reassess every single aspect of your life. Do you want Allah in His Jannah? Are you doing it so that people can say stuff about you? So that your family members can say good things about you? Are you doing it because you want your deeds to be out there? Are you doing it just so that people will say that, oh, he didn't come to the masjid, so I don't know what's wrong with him? Are you and the other members of the creation clean with one another or not? This is the hadith of إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ, and the Shaykh began with talking about bringing some ayat about ikhlas, where the ayah of Surah Kahf, the last one, where he's saying that if you seek Allah, if you want Allah and the Akhirah, then do things sincerely for Him. And then there are some other ayat that he quoted in the beginning, which I don't believe are here for some reason, وَمَا أُمِرُوا إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ مُخْلِصِينَ لَهُ الدِّينَ, and the other ayat that have been mentioned in talking about the importance of Ikhlas. But then here now we have the first hadith, which is the hadith of إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. I believe, what is this? This is the introduction. Oh, this is the abridged version. So maybe there's a difference between what I was looking at there and what I was looking at here. Let me bring this one up then. Apologies. Just this one. The first hadith he brings is the hadith of Umar radiallahu anhu. إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. And I'm sure everybody has seen this hadith before, and it's not the first time that they've gone across this hadith before and looked at its benefits. No signal. It's coming on now. Not working. Okay, I think we'll just carry on with that then. The first hadith is the hadith of إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. And the rough explanation that we have of this hadith is that your actions are deemed by your intention. If your intentions are clean, then your actions will be rewarded accordingly. If they are not, then they will not be rewarded accordingly. This is just a rough explanation from the first hadith. Hadith number 2 and hadith number 3 have the same sort of important message, which is the importance of Ikhlas. Aisha radiallahu anha said the Prophet ﷺ said that there will be an army that comes towards the end of time and they will come to destroy the Kaaba. Prophet ﷺ said all of them will be swallowed by the earth. So Aisha said all of them, some of them may have been good, some of them may have been bad, some of them may have been swallowed up. The Prophet ﷺ said that they will be resurrected according to their intention. It's hadith number 2. Hadith number 3, the Prophet ﷺ said, La hijra ba'd al-fath. After the conquering of Makkah, there is no hijrah. You can't go from Makkah to Medina anymore. Walakin jihad wa niyyah. And we talk about jihad later in its appropriate time. But the Prophet ﷺ is saying here is that your intention to doing good remains. What these hadith tell us is the importance of Ikhlas. And without Ikhlas being corrected, you may think that you're upon goodness, but you're not upon goodness. Or you may think that you're upon badness, but in actual fact, it can lead for it to be good. The second hadith that we quoted here is the hadith of Aisha, which is an example of somebody doing something bad, but then you'll be resurrected in a good state. But it's possible. Prophet said that you'll be resurrected according to your needs. So there may be some people within them that will be resurrected and will be fine. And this third hadith is the example of people wanting to do good and having ikhlas in that. And if you do that, then Allah will give you tawfiq to carry on and do more. In summary, hadith number 2 and hadith number 3, if you have ikhlas or you don't have ikhlas, the reason why ikhlas is so important, because this will judge you according to what you will have in the akhirah. It's your station in the akhirah. And it starts off with here. If it's good, if it's strong, then in the akhirah you'll be fine. If it's not, then you need to change it. Then we have hadith number 4, which is the hadith of Jabir, where the Prophet ﷺ said, when they went off to the battle of Tabuk, and the Prophet ﷺ said, there is not a valley, there's not a road that you will go past, there is not any kind of hunger or difficulty or thirst that you will face, except there are a group of people in Medina that will get the same reward as you. Give you a brief background to Tabuk. Tabuk happened in summer. Anybody traveling through the desert, it's over 60 degrees. No AC, you're walking in 60 degrees. Tabuk was an expedition against the Romans. The Romans had hundreds and thousands of people. Hundreds and thousands. You're going against the biggest superpower. The Muslims, some of them said 20,000, some of them 30,000, some of them said 40,000. but the ratio was like 1 to 10. The munafiq said, لا تنفروا في الحرب. Don't go, it's too hot. They knew this is it. If you go, Muhammad, we're going to die. Khalas. Why? Just stay at home. Some people got left behind in Medina for legitimate reasons. Prophet ﷺ said that there are a group of people in Medina that will be rewarded. And this ayah was revealed about them in Surah Tawbah. That you yourselves will not face any kind of thirst, wala nasab, any kind of difficulty, wala makhmasa, any kind of hunger, fi sabilillah. And there's not a thing that will happen in this expedition of difficulty against the opposite party, except that it was written for them, kutiba lahum amalun salih. They are rewarded because of their ikhlas. They are rewarded even emotionally. Hunger, thirst, wanting, the same thing that he wants to do, I will get the same reward because of that level of ikhlas. There's another hadith, and these are all financial. So now here we have hadith number 4, hadith number 5, and hadith number 6. This is a rough idea of hadith number 4. Hadith number 5 is the hadith of Man. And Man narrated that his father gave some money to a man in the masjid. He gave some money to a man in the masjid. Then he himself came. So the father had given the sadaqah. Then the boy came and he met that man in the masjid. That man in the masjid, what did he do? He gave that money to him. So now, father gave money to a stranger. Stranger gave money to his son. Son comes home and he goes, look dad, look what I've got. He goes, what's it? Why have you got that? It's not for you. Go give it back. So he goes, no, it's mine. He gave it to me. So they went to the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet ﷺ said to him, you will get the reward and that is your right. Financial sacrifice and ikhlas, it will never be taken away from you. And this is also expanded further in the event of Sa'd. Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, radiyallahu anhu, he thought he was gonna die. He was in Mecca and he thought he was gonna die. So he asked the Prophet ﷺ, he said, I've got left some daughters behind. How much shall I give away in charity and leave for them? Can I give all of it? He said, no. Can I give a half of it? He said, no. Can I give thuluth? The Prophet ﷺ said, if you want to give a third, then give away a third, but that's still too much. Then the Prophet ﷺ told him why a third is too much. Because he said, if you leave your daughters behind, you've got all your wealth, you've given it away in sadaqah, because you want to do it for the sake of Allah. What's going to happen to your daughters? Who's going to look after them? They will go to poverty. Maybe they'll start begging. It is better for you to take your responsibility seriously out of having ikhlas financially, and this will be better for you. And this reward will continue. The point here, and it's a very interesting point, the Prophet ﷺ, this man is about to die, or he thinks he's about to die. What did he advise him with? Ikhlas. But specifically financial ikhlas. Don't leave your responsibilities hanging. Leave in a way where you have gone and you are sincere towards your daughters, you are sincere towards those people who you want to give a sadaqah to also, but you have done it responsibly. And also we learn from these hadith, these 4, 5 and 6, is a very important principle in Islam, is that you can have one good intention to do something, but out of that one thing, if other things come, you yourself will get the reward for all of that. You yourself will get the reward for all of that. So now, for example, I teach my son Surah Fatiha. Every time now, until he is 80, 90 years old, every single rak'ah, when I'm gone, far away from him, who's going to get the reward? The father will get the reward. Okay? We know that. But now, imagine my son went and taught 20 people, 100 people, 1,000 people, 1,000,000 people. Who's going to get the reward? It's all going to spiral down from the mercy of Allah. But why? Because you have ikhlas. Even if you didn't intend it, one good deed with ikhlas, you will come Yawm al-Qiyamah and think, where does this come from? Summary of this: program yourself to have ikhlas, program yourself to seek the akhirah financially. In your actions, in your internal affairs, you will be safe. Hadith number 7 is the hadith where Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Allah doesn't look at your bodies, He doesn't look at your appearances, but He looks at your heart and your actions. This hadith is very powerful because it teaches us that even those people who are misguided, a man killed 100 people, but because of his ikhlas, and obviously after the mercy of Allah, Allah gave him his Jannah. Ibn Rajab rahimahullah talks about hadith number 8, hadith number 9. Hadith number 8 is where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, was asked about what is jihad fi sabilillah. Obviously this is very important. Again, like we're going to say, we're going to come to it. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave him a definition of what is jihad. He says jihad is when you strive to make la ilaha illallah the highest. Does that mean you kill innocent people? Does that mean you even have to kill? Does that mean it has to be violent? No. As long as you are trying to convey the right message of la ilaha, this is jihad. This could be an action. This could be a statement. This could be forbidding something which is wrong or enjoining something which is good. Hadith number 9, the Prophet ﷺ said that two men, if they are fighting each other, both of them could be in the hellfire. So they said that, okay, we understand if I am the perpetrator, I will be in the hellfire, but how is the other person going to be in the hellfire? The Prophet ﷺ said that if he had a chance to overcome him, he would have killed him also. This person will be accountable due to his actions. Ibn Rajab rahimahullah said, you can have a huge action. £5,000 I've gone for Hajj, £10,000 I've gone for Hajj, I've been away from my family for 40 days, I've taken off time work, I've got no income coming in. I've spent £5,000, £10,000, I've gone for Hajj. I've travelled 6,000 miles. I've gone through the heat. I've gone through difficulty. After difficulty, all of this huge act of worship for the sake of Allah, some deeds may be so great, but belittled by the intention. You can come Yawm al-Qiyamah and you have absolutely nothing because of your ikhlas. But also, the other side. It's not even 1 calorie to smile. But a non-Muslim might look at it and say, he's a nice man actually, I think he's okay. I think maybe Muslims are alright. Some deeds may be so little, but on Yawm al-Qiyamah, because of that level, he does it for the sake of, I'm going to smile at this man so that he can see Muslims are good. We are just human beings and we want good for other people as well. I'll do this for the sake of Allah. Yawm al-Qiyamah, it's possible, Ibn Rajab said, it's possible that you come and you see a huge mountain in front of you just because of one smile. It's a very important principle that we need to get in our heads. Ikhlas can make it or reduce it, no matter how big or difficult or how easy the deed is. Hadith number 10 and 11 and 12, and we nearly finished. Hadith number 10, 11 and 12, we're putting them together. As you can see, what we're trying to do is get the idea from what the Shaykh has put down from these hadith from sincerity, and then bi'idhnillah next week we can move on. And next week we're going to look at tawbah, inshallah. The Prophet ﷺ in the hadith of Abu Hurairah, where the Prophet ﷺ said that praying in jama'ah is 25 times better than praying alone. If you make wudu properly at home and you leave, every single step that you take, what happens? You get a reward. Every single step that you take with the other foot, what happens? You are expiated. And every single step that you take, the angels are making dua for you because you are now in prayer. And they are saying, oh Allah, have mercy on him, oh Allah, have forgive him. Oh Allah, have mercy on him, Allah, forgive him. You go to the masjid, 7 o'clock, the jama'ah is at 7:30. You made wudu properly. For half an hour, the angels are making dua for you. Allah forgive him. Allah forgive him. They don't get bored. They don't make a mistake. It's clear and it's repetitive. Allah forgive him. Allah forgive him. Allah forgive him. You think Allah's not going to answer their dua? Hadith number, where are we? Hadith number 11 is the hadith of Ibn Abbas where he said, the Prophet ﷺ said, good and evil are based on Allah has written good and evil. If a person does one good deed, Allah multiplies it tenfold. If he wanted to do a good deed but he didn't do it, how many rewards does he get? You want to do a good deed, I want to give a sadaqah but I didn't do it. But I've got the intention, what happens? One reward, just for your ikhlas. Like, if you want to do a bad deed, I want to go home and I'm going to listen to it. Today I'm going to listen to it. But I'll go home and think, astaghfirullah. Throw it in the bin. What happens? Reward. Ikhlas. If you did it, what happens? One bad sin. Wouldn't it be fair that he give you 10 bad sins? Of course, he's giving you 10. He's giving you 10 for working 1 hour. But if you don't work, you should take away 10, right? He'll only take away 1. Jalla wa ala. Then we have another hadith of the hadith. This is the last hadith of 3 people who got stuck in a cave. 3 people, they got stuck in a cave. So then what they said is they said, now we're stuck. This cave has gone in on us. There's no way out. There is no way. We're dead. The only way is now we can make dua sincerely to Allah. So one person said, oh Allah, I've never told anyone about this before. But every day when I used to go home, I never used to sit down until my parents have had milk. Until they've had dinner, I won't have dinner. But when I went home one day, I was late. They were already sleeping. What do I do? Shall I have the dinner? He waited all night until the morning, patiently, so that they can have the dinner. Another man wanted to do something which is haram with another woman, his cousin. So she said, go and get some money, and then you can be mine. He's gone, worked. That's it, Friday night. I'm going, knocking on the door, tuck, tuck, tuck. This is the night. I've been waiting all this time. I love this woman. What did she say? If you fear Allah, use that as the mahar, we can do this properly. Do this properly. Ikhlas, ikhlas. Another man took a loan from another man. I'll pay you back, don't worry, I'll pay you back. How bad is this? I heard a story yesterday. Wallah al-Azim, I had a story yesterday. 2 brothers. They shared their mother's womb together. Right now they're fighting over £25. 25, not 250, not 2005. 25, they're not talking. One brother goes to him, he goes, come on, I've got a job for you. You come with me and we'll go together. Commission-based work. When we get there, the person will pay us, and then when we come back, we split it. We came back, and he goes, I gave him £50. He got angry with me. He said, no, it should be 75. It's 50, it's 50. You getting half on it? No, he goes, you promised me 75. 2 blood brothers, and the elders, 40, 50 years old, they're not talking. They shared their mother's womb, but they can't share £25. They shared their mother's compassion, but they can't share. This man, where was I? Hadith number? Or the third man? What was the third one again? Financial, this is my point. Financial. He lent him some money, and he goes, I'll pay you back. He didn't meet him. So he came after a long time, and he said, all of that livestock is yours. He goes, no, I just lent you just £1. How can all that be mine? He goes, no, that was my amana. You didn't come back to collect it, so I reinvested it for you. Seeking Allah's face. How easy could it be now? Imagine he's made £1 million from £5, £10. How easy for him to say, here's your £10. That's what I owe you, man. How can you ask me for all my hard work? For the sake of Allah, man, this is all of yours. Ikhlas. What we learn from this, my brothers, my sisters, is the reward for ikhlas is undefined. Allah moved the rock for them. Allah can move your rock. Allah can do anything. Allah can take away your diabetes. Allah can take away anything, your cancer. Allah can remove your rock and you won't even know how He's going to do it. Salah is multiplied in every stage, in preparing, in actions, in statements. We've talked about this before in other durus, so I don't want to repeat this. But what we learn from this also is what Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah said, that miracles, you want a miracle in your life, what's it connected to? There's no other way. You can't think that you're going to get a way out if you've not got Ikhlas. There's no other way. It could be that Allah will save you from something which is difficult, but how do you know that's not going to be a proof against you on Qiyamah unless you have Ikhlas? Some of the ulama have explained that the only way that you can have Ikhlas and get this level of miracles is if you have Iman and follow the way of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. How do we know that? قُلْ إِن كُنْتُمْ تُحِبُّونَ اللَّهَ. If you think that you have ikhlas, follow the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then Allah will give you the miracle. Allah will give you your way out. يُحْبِبْكُمُ اللَّهُ وَيَغْفِرْ لَكُمْ ذُنُوبَكُمْ. Then in Aqeedah Wasatiyya, Shaykh al-Islam says something which is good. Now I didn't want to put this in English. I wanted to leave it in Arabic because for me it makes it's more profound in Arabic. لَيْسَ لِلْوَلِي زَيْن خَاص. That there is no uniform for a person who is a wali. There is no uniform for a person who is close to Allah. There is no nationality, there is no language, there is no gender, there is no age group, there is no appearance, beard, thobe, shamag, amama, there's nothing. This is what Ibn Taymiyyah is saying. There is no dress code, there is no profile. Ikhlas is that important. Just to summarize all of this, I'm sorry I've gone over, is that look what you happen with ikhlas. With ikhlas, what Allah will give to you as an individual is the ability to respect and the ability to venerate. Where do we learn this from? This man, he respected and he venerated his mum and his dad all night long. All night long. He didn't want to move because of that level of respect. I would probably get bored after 5-10 minutes, I'll be honest. I would probably get bored and think, you know what, let me put it in the fridge, I'll wake up early and then give it to them. This man, that level of respect, he probably even think about that. And if you do that with your parents, how are you going to do it? If you're doing that in your house, what are you going to do it outside your house? And one of these pious brothers that I met once, I went to his house and everything he was doing was like his mother's job. Like I would imagine you go into your house. Isn't that what your mum should be doing, bro? You know, ironing, cleaning, hoovering, maybe even some cooking. I didn't see him cooking, but maybe he does. You know what he said to me? He said, my mother gave birth to me so that I make life easy for them. Not that she's held me for 9 months. She's carried me, then she breastfed me, and then she's put me into the dunya, then I sit on the sofa, and then add on top of that burden as she gets older. Allah has entrusted me so that I make life easy for them. Allah, that's ikhlas. That is ikhlas, and he has hit that on the nail. Respect and veneration. Also we learn from these hadith, all of them, but particularly these last few hadith, is preserving people's rights and preserving people's trusts. That man didn't make zina. That man returned it back because of that level of ikhlas, and it stopped him from any kind of oppression, any kind of internal or external in the dunya. Why? Because he wanted the akhirah. And if that isn't enough, my brothers and sisters, ikhlas, Allah can change the universe for you. The laws of a rock falls in front of you, is there any way that can be moved without a bulldozer or without anything like that? Go back to what I said in the very beginning. Everything he said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, was perfect. Everything he said was true. Everything he said was in the best manner. And he told us that a rock fell down, these people made dua, and it moved. Allah changed the universe because of the power of ikhlas. He answered their dua. He gave them tranquility. He gave them tawakkul. And most of all, He gave them a way out. Ask Allah to make this beneficial for us all, make us of those people of Ikhlas, and that He doesn't make this as a proof against us in Yawm al-Qiyamah, and that He is pleased with us when we pass away. هذا والله أعلم وصلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. بإذن الله, next week we will look at another chapter, which is the chapter of Tawbah. Barakallah feek. Any questions or? Any questions? Barakallah feekum. What time do you guys pray? Half 8.